Let me tell you something. This is where their creative is like, like these guys, the Booker of the Year, right? And I'm just going to compare the and this is maybe not even a good comparison, but let's just compare Russo to Tony Khan's booking, okay? And this is the difference, right? So when they were doing the Nation of Domination, okay, it was a group, and they were doing a group. But what's the whole point of the group? Okay, when you are creatively bereft, okay, you see, and like guys are like, you got a lot of guys that aren't doing nothing. You create a group, but then you create a dynamic in the group to where at least one of the people in the group is going to splinter away from the group and become a bigger star. Okay, so they're good at, AEW is good at like writing all these groups. They're not elevating anybody out of the group. Perfect example, you have the Nation Domination. What did they do with the Nation Domination? You elevated The Rock out of the group, and The Rock went on to become a singles competitor. Bro, it's been it's a year and a half now, all right? MJF's character, the way it's been presented early on, and some of the stuff he's done, like, in a not too far distant past, he is obviously a standalone character with his big bodyguard. And they've stuck him in these groups, and I'm just like, and he's still in groups, he's still in the group, and it's like, dude, this guy is you're watering this guy down.
So they're trying to get a rub off of him to bring those other guys up?
Bro, that promo that he cut when he did when he was on the podium on the political campaign, and he just tore a new of Moxley, right? That's this guy's gimmick. He's a punk that talks massive about you on his opponent. Okay, he doesn't need to be in a group. He doesn't need to be like. He just needs to be talking good because his verbiage can build an angle. So if you're in a group,
he's kind of like Piper. Piper didn't need to be in a group.
Right.
He just talked.
Perfect example. Mark Madden actually told him that he reminds him of Piper, right? So this is a perfect example, okay? And Piper had like one other guy with him, like Ace.
Yeah.
We're just like
Orndorff or Orton.
Or Craig O'Malley.
Craig O'Malley.
But you got one guy with you to do some stuff, but you don't need to be, because bro, when you're in a group, okay, if you're out there standalone and your segment's coming up and it's a 10-minute promo, you got the mic for 100% of the time for 10 minutes. You come on a group, okay, what's your mic time now? You 4 guys got to talk. What are you 30% of the time on the mic time here? It's like, dude, he needs to be a singles competitor. All this is watering him down. It's making him less interesting, in my opinion. All right, so anybody else got a comment on that? Nope. All right, here we go. I just think this is funny. Bear Country.
Oh my god. The name.
Jurassic Express versus Matt Hardy, Private Party, Butcher and Blade. I'm just going to read the match.
Didn't they have a promo with Moxley and Eddie Kingston before this?
Was it before this or after this? I haven't read it yet.
I might have.
That was before.
You sure?
Where he's taping his wrist. Eddie Kingston was taping his wrist.
Yeah, but
I don't know if it was before or after.
No, it's not yet. It's not yet.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it hasn't come yet. I think it's probably next.
Okay, first right off the bat, I don't know if anybody even noticed this, but did you see what Marco Stunt was wearing? Like, he was wearing like Matador pants with the Pentagon gimmick in the front. That was the weirdest thing I've ever seen, with like a green shirt. It looked brutal.
This match highlights the difference in the work between the two shows. Okay, because you had all the green guys out here, and they were and Matt Hardy. Okay, right. So that's what this was. This was a bunch of green guys and Matt Hardy, and so Matt Hardy got the win at the end, perfect, because he knew he kept he knew all the Matt is so smart. Okay, he did one little, and I wouldn't have done this too, but they have to sell for Marco Stunt, and you have to figure out ways to sell for Marco Stunt. And Marco Stunt they were selling for him, which looked ridiculous. But that's all he did. He just sold for Marco Stunt. Then he was like out of the match, and he came in at the end when they won.
My only problem when I was watching this match was there were 10 guys in it, right? Mm-hmm. And I cared about none of them except maybe Bunny. Nothing. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
But let me tell you this too. There was something. Okay, so every week we talk about, bro. I figured it out. Okay, you know what Luchasaurus wrestles like?
No.
He wrestles like an action figure.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Like, because he looks like that. Like that if you could play him and wind him up and like you would make him go faster. But he's just an action figure, and his moves are very like robotic and not fast and swift. It's just, I don't know. He just looks very like he struggles out there.
One of the things about him I noticed is that you can tell that they go over what they're gonna do in the back down to every move, and he anticipates, and you can kind of tell he's ready for the next thing too soon.
Right, turns out. He's not. Here's what he does. He does something, and instead of like selling or anything, he turns around, kind of like the James Bond shot at the beginning of the movie, like dun dun dun, like, and he's ready for the next spot. Like he's waiting.
Yeah.
That's how he waits for the next spot. He doesn't look that's a perfect example. You got that because he doesn't do anything organically out there. Yeah. He looks like he's following a script, and he's very, I don't know, just not, I don't know.
No,
but and then, bro, this match too, there was a time in this where they broke down and everybody in the ring was fighting, and nobody looked like they were fighting. It was just like the awful looking, weak offense for like 10 guys, and it was terrible.
I can't wait for the AEW Patreon where you can get in on the. If you pay enough to the tier, you can go and do a rumble with the guys. I can get a couple on Marco's stunt.
What? Is that true?
No, I'm waiting for it. I would pay money.
I'm probably not. I'm sure that's not too far away, and you would probably pay money to wrestle Marco's stunt. So
I'll go in and help book AEW Dark.
I hope you and Marco get COVID.
Oh man, that's cold-blooded.
No, Disco. It's funny that you say the thing about Luchasaurus, how he wrestles kind of like an action figure. Like I don't know, these guys are all just like, you could tell they're all video games because like we kind of grew up in the same era, like video game fans. Because I forgot what match I saw, and it was like two guys did a move, and like you know how like sometimes like in like games like two forces crash and they like repel each other. Like two wrestlers did that. Like I think they booted each other and they both like went back, and I don't know, that just the spot didn't make sense. Like it looked like something that like you'd see like in an anime show where like just like powers would glow up. I don't know, you'd have to see it, but you could tell there's just a lot of that in like all the matches. Too many guys like wrestling like they're video game characters where they're super powerful, they kick out.
Right, exactly.
Like that.
Well, somebody tweeted that to me. I was like sitting there talking, like somebody like I was talking about like they did something where somebody kicked out. It was either on a, I don't know, whatever it was. So somebody did like, they did this spot last week where Matt Jackson super kicked Phoenix. Phoenix kipped up and no-sold and then kicked Matt Jackson in the head, right? And I tweeted like, come on, that's just like, that's a little bit too ridiculous. And somebody was like, everybody knows that in video games that you gain energy when you get hit. And like these like fans like tweeting like they think these guys are these guys. Here's the thing, I think the fans were grown into a fan base that thinks the wrestler should simulate the video games instead of real fights.
Yeah. No, definitely.
That's the deal. It's like this is real live video game instead of like playing the video game, and so the wrestling like the video game.
I don't understand that. Because we grew up, like, I'm going to be 40 this year. Matt, you said you're in your early 40s. Like, we kind of grew up with Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, but that's a separate thing from wrestling. How come the new generation now, they see all this high-flying going on in the video games and they want it to translate?
Because
it's not the same thing.
The new generation is almost all gamers and nerds. So
yeah.
It's nerd culture, bro. That's what it basically is. You know, wrestling now is kind of like nerd culture. Go ahead.
And when the wrestlers like incorporate that style, like we see it that way. Because back then, like, because I started watching in the early 2000s, so when I would see like guys, like it would just take one angle slam for someone to get pinned, one F5, and like now, like I guess the people,
one DDT, man, like
the people who would kick out, like it would make sense, like Shawn Michaels kicked out, Triple H kicked out,
at WrestleMania, not like not on Raw, you know what I mean,
Or like the foot would go on the rope, or like the ref was kind of out of place, so by the time he crawled into the pin. But like now it's like this guy gets spiked on his head, 1, 2, kick out, and then they pick him up for another move. He counters, and then I don't know. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's well. What happens is that everything was protected better before, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you've got this hybrid thing where they take lucha, they overdo it. New Japan false finishes, they overdo it. You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem. Everybody sees, the false finishes always get a pop. So let's all do 50 false finishes, even though the 4 matches before us did it too, okay? Let's all do the leg slap. Let's all do the Canadian Destroyer. Let's all do a tope. You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem, that everybody's trying to get a pop.
Yeah, and then they have the fireworks displayed last couple of weeks, and the guy's out cold for like 10 minutes. It just doesn't make sense.
That was brutal. Okay, what was next, Disco?
So next was Moxley and Kingston had an interview. Moxley said he wasn't in the great mood. He should be on a beach sipping a Mai Tai, but he has to go to war again. He has to fix his real problem, and that's the Good Brothers. He said he wasted good money on their pay-per-view, and he couldn't get their faces out of their mind. What did he mean by that? He paid for their pay-per-view. Oh, am I frozen?
No, he said that. Well, if you remember, he goes, I turn one corner, there's Luke Gallows. I turn to another corner, there's the Good Brothers. I can't get them out of my mind.
Yeah, but he said he wasted good money on their pay-per-view. What did he mean by that?
Oh, remember that pay-per-view they did? Scott D'Amore came out.
Yeah, Gallows.
He was using his balls as a punching bag.
Gallows came on here and promoted it.
So here was my problem.
Let me finish.
Okay.
He said Gallows had googly eyes like they used to in kindergarten, and they made fun of Chad too bad, and then Kingston said he had to get serious. He said this wasn't Tokyo or Impact Zone. This was their house. He said they had never shot nothing or popped nothing to stop fronting.
Yeah, that's like a 50 Cent line.
Okay.
So my whole thing was, I don't know if it was because, they were if they were doing insider stuff or they were trying to be funny with the googly eye, which I thought was stupid because I didn't understand it.
They're doing buddy cop stuff.
Right. So now they're trying to be funny, and it wasn't a good promo to me.
Yeah. Anybody else? Any comment?
I didn't see it.
No, man. They're not good. It's just weak. It was just weak.
Christian was interviewed backstage by Dasha. He defined the word workhorse as someone who busts their ass every night no matter who they're in the ring with. He said Jon Moxley thought he knew everything that there was to know about wrestling until he got in the ring with him. He said he's not a workhorse, he's the workhorse in pro wrestling, which is funny because he only wrestled like one match in how many years? Yeah. He addressed Kenny and said he stole his time last week, but he was glad he got a chance to introduce himself and let him know he was on borrowed time. He said the reason he's in AEW is to cement his legacy, and he would do that by outworking everyone.
Did you know Christian well, DI or Konnan? Do you all know him?
Yeah, we know. Yeah, we got along with him good at Impact.
So when he retired, officially, it was because of concussion issues.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I guess.
And I'll tell you what it was. It was funny too. They were wrestling in Vegas, right, years ago, and they hadn't been around a while. I was like, hey, let's go get a drink after the show. Like, hey, you want to go get a drink? Where you guys stand? So I said the Hard Rock, right? And I guess Randy Orton clubbed him with the clothesline. So he met me in the bar, and he was telling me, like, hey, he rung my bell tonight, and you could tell he was, like, a little bit messed up at the bar. And that night that I went and had a drink with him at the Hard, that was the night that he was done for a while, for a long time. Yeah.
And it's just interesting because, when you think about Bret Hart and Goldberg and that situation with medicine now or with the way that they can diagnose and treat and, and I guess misinformation back then, maybe Bret could have stopped that stroke from happening if they had done an MRI or something like that. Then it's just very interesting the fact that he swore up and down that he was done because it freaked him out, and just with going to see the proper specialist, you're able to like Edge and Daniel Bryan and him. They're able to kind of have a quick comeback.
You can fix people these days a lot easier. It's like a lot of advancements.
It's surprising. That's all.
The human body.
Yes.
And during the time that Christian got that concussion, I think that's when Daniel Bryan's thing was going on, and then I think they were also under the concussion lawsuit, so they were definitely like not really trying to get him back because then they would see that.
But see,
they would
Daniel
put someone that got concussed.
But see, I don't know if Christian ever had seizures, but Daniel Bryan said that he was having seizures, and that alone is kind of freaky,
Like he lost hand strength and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Well, good for them. I mean, it's good to see them back and everything.
In the arena,
I like Christian a lot.
In the arena, Eddie Kingston made his entrance. He was jumped from behind immediately by the Good Brothers. Jon Moxley ran in joining the brawl. He had a bandage on his shoulder and arm. The action spilled to ringside where Gallows turned the tables on Moxley with some uppercuts, and Anderson then threw Moxley in the barricade. I guess when the match started then, they started beating. They actually did this. They worked this. They worked this like a typical a good baby face heel tag team match. They let the guys get heat and trying to come back and stuff and all that. But I mean,
it was mostly Eddie selling and then this guy doing the comebacks,
right?
And I'm definitely for sure. Moxley definitely wore that shoulder wrap to get sympathy because he was doing too many things with his arm. Even though he was selling it, he was doing too many things with his arm when he was doing his comebacks, which let me know he was not hurt. Right. And then, of course, he did the bad tope, the one where you like play patty cakes with the other guy. You each touch hands. which I do.
Bro, you know what these guys? Let me tell you what these guys don't do too. Is there's no, everybody does like, so they do forearms so much. Some of these guys are throwing punches, but Moxley does the forearm, okay? But bro, these guys never do the forearm with their body language showing vicious intentions. They just kind of like they just throw it. Yeah. It's just like literally just like a lazy shot of your arm. So there's never like it's just like the guy, like it's like a waste. And like when they're brawling and they're doing forearms, they completely lose me. Because I don't know anybody when you're in a
forearms to start the high spot. Like here's a breakup.
Here's a breakup. Hey, I'm gonna hit the ropes now.
Because like when Benoit hit you with a forearm or Eddie hit you with a forearm, like they brought it. Everything they did had intention, and that's what made it look so sweet.
They don't snarl like in Rocky, where he's showing him how to snarl like that. Like, they don't show the facial with it to get mean,
or the physicality that should go with it either.
All right, so
it's crazy how much mileage you can get out of a punch too. Because I was seeing a clip, and then I think Undertaker hit Triple H, and he fell down like on the first punch, and then like JR was like, "Whoa, did you see that? He knocked him down." And I'm like, "Damn, like that did look good." And guys don't do that often enough. Where you just straight get punched and then you're like, whoa! Like,
let me ask you a question. Grade the strength of the top of the card on AEW.
Like who's the strongest?
Jericho.
Like grade it on a scale like A, B, C, D, or F.
B.
Like why is it B?
Order.
Like give me. Do you have an A? Okay, do you have, how many A's do you have? How many B's do you have? And when I'm talking an A, I'm talking to somebody you see like, okay, this guy's like, this is like a Drew McIntyre, a Brock, somebody that's
I think we're going to talk about him in a minute, but Brian Cage looks like he should be an A. Like that guy looks like he's.
Yeah, but he's not. He's not even close.
He's not though. Like they don't treat him like one, but he should be one.
But that's my point. Look at the top of their card. Their top of the top.
Cody.
Here's at the top of their card.
Everybody's a B or a B plus out of the top guys. I think
the top of the card looks like a baseball team. Your team's like 4 games under 500, and you got a bunch of guys, and they're all hitting 250, and they're just putting average numbers up, right? Mm-hmm. And your AAA, you got some guys that are like hitting going 2 for 4 with 2 home runs and 4 RBIs each night. Like you got some studs. Like the mid card of these guys looks like they should be the top of the card.
No, well,
like the lucha,
the mid card.
The what now?
The mid card, the mid card is the part.
Archer.
No. No.
Oh, okay.
Visually, visually, these guys look like they should be Archer. Cage, so there's a lot of mid card guys that look like they could easily just be at the top of the card with these guys. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of difference between the top of the card and the bottom of the card. Really.
The way they're going to progress now is MJF is going to be up there going for the world title, since that's going to be their goal. So your top of the card is Omega, Moxley, Jericho. Not really Jericho anymore. Omega, Moxley, MJF, Cody. Fucking what's the kid's name?
Darby
Allin.
So let me
where's Pockets?
Negative
You haven't
one.
seen him lately. Where's Pockets?
Probably
-1.
Let me finish this. Let me finish this.
Yeah.
After the match, Gallows and Anderson took cheap shots at Moxley, and Kenny Omega made his entrance with Don Callis. Kenny held a steel chair and sat it in front of Moxley. Kingston ran in and knocked Omega off the chair, but Gallows and Anderson picked him up and landed a magic killer. Omega stepped on Moxley's neck and then wrapped up Kingston's leg in a steel chair, and Moxley tried to stop them, but Anderson jumped off the second rope and stomped on the chair. They then kicked him out of the ring, and Moxley was beside himself. They tried to wrap the chair around Moxley's neck, but the Young Bucks ran down and interrupted the proceedings. There were arguments in the ring, and Moxley managed to slowly roll out of the way. They wanted to two-sweet each other, but the Bucks refused. Nick and Matt walked away, but Kenny spun Nick around. Kenny threw up the fingers again, and Matt called him pathetic. Moxley got to his feet with the chair and swung wildly, clearing the heels from the ring. Moxley's music hit, and the Young Bucks left. Kingston screamed to get him in the ring with Mox. What did you think of this post-match thing?
Hated it.
It just added more missed questions, right? Are the Young Bucks with them or against them? Yeah, it's just one of those deals. It didn't do anything.
All right.
There's just like a lot of things wrong with it. Like it's like Kenny and Matt are best friends, but you only know that if you like know the being the elite stuff and like all that. So you don't really get much out of him spinning Matt, like unless you know that. And they didn't do that once they like started Dynamite. Like you're expected to know everything about everybody that's on the roster without an explanation. And I think that's one of their biggest problems because they like to show that they have a close friendship and it's being strained. They would have to have showed clips of them being friends and stuff for it to mean something to where they are today. And they don't do that. Like, it's
what are you
just
talking about? Didn't you watch Being the Elite? You would know all about it if you watched Being the Elite.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even gonna go in that territory because I can't stand that. Like, to be honest, like, I don't know, but it's just it's annoying. I don't like this stuff.
We need Harry on here tonight to defend AEW. I'm gonna get him on here.
I like it when he's on because then he explains these things.
He does.
And then, like, it kind of
we don't know. Yeah.
Adds a little context to it, and then he like views things differently. I always like that one.